And we're live streaming to you from historic Founders Park in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. We just got here at our summer studio, and we were so excited to be back on the shore. You'll see me in my Hawaiian shirts from now on. And we're so delighted to be here again with Music Matters with Jason Tramm for our unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. And thank you so much for helping us grow. We hit 1,878 subscribers, and we grow every day thanks to people like you. Please like and share our videos and subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. And to see our over 275 past episodes, check out our website at www.jasontram.net. Again, that's www.jasontram with two M's.net. We have a really wonderful guest today. We have Cragmire Peace of the Bloody Jug Band. He is the lead vocalist and the washboard player. This is our first on our show. We've never had a washboard player, but I really love their music, and they're doing some great shows, drawing inspiration from historic jug bands of the 20s and 30s, as well as the darker side of blues and rock and roll. The Bloody Jug Band carves out its own niche in a genre of music that has never been seen in such a bloody incarnation. Welcome, Cragmire.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Well, I just heard your music on Reverb Nation, and I'm like, wow, these guys are fascinating. I'd have to have them on the show. So tell us about the name, the Bloody Jug Band. Where'd it come from?
Bloody Jug Band is a modern day, as you pointed out, a modern day jug band. We liked the little bit of the spooky. We always were appreciative of things like, Country Bear Jamboree down here in Orlando, Florida, something we were all raised on. Also things like the Addams Family, Scooby-Doo, a lot of fun. I think a lot of people pigeonhole us with a lot of horror. We like more kind of dark comedy, things like that. So modern
there's
day
a lightness to your music. Your music's not like there is it's a fun musical style.
Yeah, there's a new show. I was just on a show the other day, and we likened it to like What We Do in Shadows. It's a show on HBO around, and it's one of those things where it's tongue in cheek, but it's also fun and serious. It has its moments. So we don't want to be we're certainly not a goof or a gimmick. We've been doing it for 13 years, but every band has to have a persona. Some of the bands that we've always loved. The Misfits, Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath. These are bands that made their music. I'm a huge Warren Zevon fan. Guys that made popular music and made accessible music, but they had a little bit of a darker undertone to it.
Certainly is struck a chord, and you guys have been around for 13 years. That's a long time. You have, a lot of your members are actually original members too. That's really impressive.
Yeah, we've been as high as an 8-piece band through the years. Right now, we're currently a 6-piece band with 4 of the original members. So it's great, and even our newest members have been in the band about 6-7 years. So we have had some lineup changes, through the years, and kind of burgeoned up to an 8-piece with mandolins and other instruments. But we're currently running at a 6-piece, and it's really been great, firing at all cylinders, and we're just one big happy family.
What are some of your inspirations growing up, and what, did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
An artist, yes. Maybe not a musician. I mean, I think everybody when they're about 13, they want to be, it was Green Day, or it was somebody when I was a teenager wanting to be a rock star. I think that fades away very quickly. I actually went to college for film and was a filmmaker for many years, but found myself partnering a lot with the music community. We'd be having film-related events. I was shooting music videos. I was doing other things like that. So for me, it was just kind of a natural progression. And eventually we, started the band 2009. I was originally picked up the washboard. I was playing guitar and some things around town, but I went to see Flogging Molly here in Central Florida.
I love Flogging Molly. We saw them in Asbury Park, me and my 2 boys, and we had a blast. One of the best live shows we've seen recently.
Yeah, and the neat thing about that is when the openers always kind of can catch you off guard a little bit. And so there was a band in 2006 that opened for them called Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band, and Breezy Peyton was playing the washboard, and it was the first time he was here of jug bands, and but it was a little bit obviously pre dating me, and I saw her play washboard live on stage, and I just thought it was the neatest thing. And realistically, if I tried for the rest of my life, I would never become the best guitar player in the world. I think there's about 7 million guitar players in the world. I cannot hold a candle to them, but I thought if I just try hard enough, maybe I'll be the best washboard player one day. If I just wait for everybody to die, I might eke them out. So I was sitting in for a few years playing washboard with some bands, just kind of moonlighting, and then it kind of led to the culmination of the Bloody Jug Band, which obviously I'm one of the world's only lead singer washboard players, and we have a unique lineup. Originally, we did have much more traditional instruments, like a wash tub bass, harmonica, things like that. But you find out very quickly as you need to entertain for multiple hours or multiple shows or things like that. Wash tub bass and some of these instruments are very limited. So you start writing more complex music, and that one string is just not going to do it for you anymore. So even though we still are very percussive and give a lot of roots to our jug band forefathers, we have evolved more into a swamp rock band over the 13 years, just because just like you mentioned earlier when we were offline talking about blues, sometimes when it's too much of one thing, it's hard to keep an audience, no matter how prolific it is. We have some friends that are one-man bands, and they're absolutely amazing, but a typical audience might not have the ear for it. And so after 20, 30 minutes, they're just going, this is a lot of the same. And it doesn't matter how different it is. They're just sonically hearing a lot of the same. So for us, especially being here in Central Florida, playing a lot on the coast, a lot of bike weeks, speed weeks, a lot of things over in Daytona, New Smyrna Beach. It's kind of, you need to know how to entertain an audience, and eventually just the boom clack of a jug band needed to evolve a little bit, and that's kind of where we are today as a swamp rock band, still under the genre of Americana and still giving a little bit of love to our jug band roots. I still play the washboard at every show and still use it as an integral part. We also have a cajon player. So for people that don't know that are tuning in, cajon is kind of a box drum, a Spanish box drum. So we've tried to stay away from the full kit and the traditional lineup and keep things as rudimentary and kind of tried and true acoustic as possible.
I love that Americana kind of spin on things. It's really different. And it's funny, you were talking about Daytona. I conducted an opera in Daytona Beach, and I look everywhere, and there's bikes, and we're doing an opera. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And we like to catch people off guard. I mean, it's great to play to existing fans. We have a great cult following from all over the world. And that's the neat thing about being from Central Florida. You can reach people from all over the world because everybody from around the world comes here. We also go on tours, but we have all kinds of fans from all over the world, and that's the modern thing. You can be from an area, and because of the internet, and music videos, and shows like yours, to be able to reach an audience on a global level is really, really great. But we've got to entertain people also in areas that maybe they don't know what to expect. You play to a big crowd in a bike week or a speed week. They're not always all going to be your fans, and so we really love to catch people off guard with our dynamic shows. And if you know what to expect, it's one thing, but if you don't know what to expect, just kind of see that kind of turn to the head and the light bulbs. Even people that walked in just for dinner or whatever it is, to be caught off guard and catch them kind of unexpecting is really, really a blessing for us, because that's when we can truly recruit new fans any time we can.
So, so you have one jug player in the group right now?
Yes.
How do they tune the jug?
Well, he finds a key. He doesn't play it as much as he used to. He plays a lot of percussion now, but two ways. Obviously, a lot with his voice. He Big Daddy Germ was a tuba player in the UCF marching band, so he comes from big lungs. And so when we were starting the jug band, he was the only one we could think of to kind of pick that mantle. We found out later that one of his great grandfathers was in Cannon's Jug Band Stompers, one of the original Chitlin Circuit jug bands. So everything happens for a reason. Big Daddy Germ actually today is getting heart surgery, so we send blessings and prayers out to him.
Prayers to him. Yeah.
We should be hearing any moment now that the surgery went well, but it shows that if you spend enough time in the Bloody Jug Band, we'll do everything we can to try to kill you, put you 6 feet under. But Big Daddy Germ plays the jug. A lot of the jugs we were playing in the early days were literally with water in them to try to change the keys. Either that or just the size of the jug or the mouth movements you're making. But just like the wash tub bass, it becomes very limiting, on what you can do or how much you can kind of appreciate that. So as in everything, he used to just sit there and play the jug. Now he plays percussion and jug, and sometimes a little bit of both. And we want to keep everybody and run sound for us. So when you have a big family, everybody has to kind of take their role on and take their different different categories of how to make the band and the business go.
Mm. I always say that this is the era of the indie artist. Like there's such a there's never been such a such a way that we can connect with our audiences via the internet like we can today. There's no record companies in the middle as much anymore. How does an indie artist, how do like your band, how do you get how do you break through the white noise, as it were?
I mean, I think they were always trying to discover that. For us, initially, because of our age and size, we'd ask bands, a 3 or 4 piece band, if we could go open for them, and they go, "You're twice the size of us. We can't. You're 8 people. How can we take you on the road?" So, initially, we put a lot of energy into our music videos and our online content. Also, we're represented by CSAC for publishing, but trying to get out there for licensing deals, get out there and be part of TV shows, be part of podcasts, be part of radio programs. And so that's another vehicle. We found, as everybody did during COVID, that live performances online, it wasn't a way to kind of extend or adapt. But especially when you see us play, for us, the audience interaction is huge with us. And so even if we just turned on the video and watched us perform, we still put on the same dynamic show. But as you know, feeding off that audience and having that kind of communion with the audience, we always say it's like going to church. If we don't make you feel like you went to church in a good way, not in the guilt and religious condemnation side, but in the spiritual side of feeling like you've been moved by something. So it's even though we did do some things online during COVID, it's always been in a one-on-one interaction with our audience and in a live setting that we feel really helps us. And then again, we use the videos and the albums to kind of reach and resonate with people on a different level, through the masses and through the globe.
What's it like when someone comes back to you through the internet, and so it could be from a culture that you have never been to? Like for me, it's when I get something from like Africa or the East, and I get these comments, and you have this effect that you don't even realize that you do, but it crosses borders and cultures. What's it like when you get American music like yours, which is Americana based, and then you hear from another culture? I always find that fascinating.
I take it as one of the most humbling things that you could have. I know that a lot of musicians, as I mentioned to you offline, I also, Stormy Jean, my wife, and I, and several of the band members, we own a music school, a trade school here in Central Florida. So we're always steeped around music, but we're always about empowering people. And so many musicians take praise as maybe ego stroke, and they do it to inflate their egos, which I think is very short-lived. You can only do that so much. The ego can only get so big until it kind of implodes on itself. So for us, we take it all as a great humility. I've could tell a million stories about people that I found from across the globe. We have fans in Russia. We have a fan in the UK that hit us up and wanted us to propose to his spouse. And I thought he was crazy. We found one. I actually found through the tattoo artist. The guy was getting in Sweden was getting a full arm sleeve of our first album cover, and
Whoa.
I didn't even know this guy. I actually, heard about it through the tattoo artist. He's going, I don't, if you didn't know this, you might want to see this. And this guy was like, he's like, obviously this guy's a big fan. So it's neat. It's catching people off guard, to hear from anybody that goes, hey, your music's made an impact in my life, or that your song is one of my top songs. Again, we're not the Rolling Stones. We're not the Beatles. We're not these things. We're in a different era. So in a modern day era where people have just been constantly bombarded by so many things and can tap so far into the past. When I was young, finding music was a lot tougher. You had to get the album or the cassette or the CD, and you had to almost hear about many things through word of mouth, and you didn't have just. Now I can go on YouTube, I can go anywhere, and I can, on Spotify, I can listen to anybody's album from here until, since things began. And so it's a real blessing that with so much stuff going on and so much constant bombardment in a modern world, to find an audience that thinks what you did or a song you made has really made an impact, especially at the indie level, is super humbling. And that's where even when we started playing shows again when we started, things loosened up a little bit here in Florida sooner than it seemed to have loosened up in the rest of the world. We're like the Wild West down here on our little peninsula. But we had fans that wanted to come up and just give us love, give us a handshake, give us a hug. And we made a decision very early on that we were not going to turn away our fans that wanted to show us that gratitude, even if it meant being in the line of potentially catching something or doing whatever. It just felt very disingenuous. The first person that wanted to come up and give a hug, and we were like, oh, here, fist bump. If somebody wants to go through that, to show that kind of love to you, it's hard not to be accepting of it. Not that we go around hugging every fan that's out there, but you can see in people's hearts when you've truly moved them. And we never want to be a hindrance to that. We want to be kind of the counterpoint, regardless of our spooky persona. All of us personally are very, very positive, and as you've discovered, much of our music has a lot of positive influence to it. It might be under the guise of a cautionary tale or a darker story, but more times than not, there's a spiritual or there's a positive underlying thing to it. And so we just, there's a lot of people trying to shine a light in your eyes with positivity. We do it a little bit more subversively through our darker lyrics and things like that.
I love it. And so, when did you and your wife decide to start the? Now, your wife, you told me the story before, is actually that wonderful singer with you in the band who makes those great harmonies. So, I think that's awesome to hear. Because I was saying your voices blend so amazingly together. To hear that you're married made me smile.
Stormy, Jean, and you can't quote me on this. I think that it's been 4 years that we've been married, going on 5. I could be wrong on that. It feels like 50. So, but Stormy Jean actually came into our lives. We played and performed. She's a founding member. We performed for many years before we, became romantically involved. And now we have a 9-year-old. We have Bodhi at home,
Oh,
and even after Bodhi was born, we were still bandmates and keeping things. It's tough to give everything to one person, or at least I thought it was at that time in my naive youth. But Stormy actually went to high school with Big Daddy Germ, and it was just super happenstance. He hadn't talked to her in probably 10, 15 years, and we were looking for somebody to match my vocals and kind of be a part of this. And he reached out to her, and it just out of the blue, he said, "Hey, would you like to come sing songs about the devil in this jug band thing we're doing?" And she was like, "Well, I kind of got a divorce. I'm kind of in between things. Let's give it a shot." And it just turned out that her and my vocals, due to her kind of throaty, I don't want to, Janis Joplin-esque, that's what people compare her to, but I think I hear a lot of other things, Concrete Blonde, and I hear a lot of other things in her voice, but she is a very powerful singer, and it coupled, and I think that a lot of us singing on stage, I think that, as you know, it kind of percolated. Her and I sing all the time. It creates a little bit of it's hard to sing every night with somebody in that way that we do without falling in love and without having that. So it's been a blessing that she, stuck with it all these times and put up with me through all these years. And 13 years in, we're still together as bandmates, and we are now husband and wife. And again, everything that happens, I feel is, coincidence, is a coincidence, and things are meant to happen. So she was meant to come into our lives, and from there, everything else is kind of unraveled.
well, what a great story, and wishing you all both great success in both avenues.
Thank you.
As make sure your music even more deep, as you go work that travel those roads together.
Exactly. And the neat thing about it, especially when we're songwriting, since Baby Dingo and Death Ray and I, we all, about 4 of us in the band, write music. And so we write music specifically for, regardless if it's Baby Dingo or Death Ray, they're not the lead singers. They write music for Stormy and I. So they're able to write with our voice in the back of their head, not as if they were trying to get in there and wedge in, I want to sing this one. We've had members that, oh, I wrote a song, I want to sing it. No, we're the singers in the band. But it's great to have people think of us and be able to, after all these years, kind of channel our vibe in it. So when they bring it to us, obviously we put our own little flavor to it, but it's nice to have people that are thinking of us as they're writing a song, as we would be it not versus selling a song in the modern music world and wanting Shania Twain to sing a song, or Chris Stapleton or somebody else. Our bandmates write music and write great music with us in mind.
That is great. Do they write the lyrics as well, or is the songs come in? And how much do they change when they come into the band?
How much do the members change? Well, every member, I think, has his own voice, but it depends on what it is. But both Dakota and Ray and Stormy and I, we all are able to write the music and the lyrics. And so there are instances on all of our songs that we've done that. There are other songs where we kind of share. Ponderosa is a new one we're working on. It's going to be on our new album coming out in the next few months. But it's an instance where Death Ray wrote the music, I wrote the lyrics, but as long as it's a good song, and you bring it to the band, because most people write their music one person, man, woman, and a guitar. And so, obviously, when you bring it to a band in much of a folk style, very stripped down singer songwriter style, and then you give it to a 6-piece band or an 8-piece band, it obviously evolves. And so we've also learned through the years to not be too laser beam focused on what it has to be, because when you start playing something, it naturally evolves. And that's the same thing we do with a lot of the covers that we perform. We're not a cover band by any means, but to entertain an audience, it's great to play covers, but we always pick covers that we can bring our own special thing to it. We're not going to play it verbatim. We're going to find something
Of
unique.
course, with
If
your,
it's
with your instrumentation, there'd be very little you could do verbatim.
but even like the notes, or how we're going to change
Yeah.
it. Sometimes we're gender swapping. Little Red Riding Hood, Stormy sings that, so it's a Sam and a Sham song. But so we find things where we can either gender swap. Stormy does Locomotive Breath by Jethro Tull. And so a lot of times I'll try a song, and if I just can't figure out a way to bring something unique to it, because I've been so ingrained in that. Sympathy for the Devil was another example where we tried to do a cover of Sympathy for the Devil for probably about a decade. But you can never get away from trying to be Mick. We're channeling something. It was hard to get away from it. So we changed it into a totally different strum pattern and more of an Americana approach. And then it forced you to sing it differently and forced you to change the key. And so, it's always a discovery. And I think that's why we still love doing it, because even old songs that we haven't performed for many years, we'll dust it off one day and find some new life into it. Chain to the Bottom, which I know you had commented on our music video recently. Chain to the Bottom was a song that we got sick of playing and probably didn't play for about 8 years. We had some fans that thought they were going to die before they got to hear play it live. And during COVID, we got bored and we started dusting it off, and we found some new blood to it. So certainly we're not like Bob Dylan, who needs to go out there and change the tempo and the key and everything every night that he performs it. But it is nice over because if you want to listen to the album version, it's great. That's why there's albums and singles and
Spotify
Spotify.
awaits.
Yeah, you can go online and listen to those things, but in the live version, to be able to change it up and have that's the one thing I like, is even though we're not certainly not a jam band, we are original and organic. And if certain nights Ray wants to take a bigger solo or do things, and I always talk to people, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but sometimes I feel like in an orchestral world, and also we know a lot of bands that are kind of a metal band, very progressive. Everything is super dialed in and syncopated. If you miss one note, you might as well start the whole song over. Where for us, I love to jam, and I love to, every night that we perform one of the songs, there's something different, and maybe I'm going to try to sing it a different way because I'm feeling it, or the tempo's a little different. Where it seems like in the world that you come from, the originality of it, everybody's got to be on that page and following along and
It's
hitting their note
fascinating.
when they do.
Like I said, I think by nature of its very existence, blues tends to be there is room for improv, right? There's always some room for improvisation in there, just like in jazz, which is so improv based. But the blues certainly. In classical music, we're given sheet music, we're given the parameters on the page. Now that being said, there's a lot of variation within the parameters. Like if it says allegro, that just means fast. Well, your fast may be different than my fast. I had a lot of coffee. I'm drinking a lot of coffee, so my tempo is going to be a little faster, possibly.
Sure.
So there's there's so many different ways to interpret even a piece that's written down. So it's just different parameters. But I just love the kind of like some of the ultra technical bands, like when I saw Rush or when I've seen Dream Theater live. Yeah, it's got to be exactly. Like Rush was like, they were like he considered himself like composing the drum parts, right? So they
Sure.
really didn't change much at all. I saw them when I was in college. I saw them when I was in high school. And I saw them on their last tour, and those songs were pretty much the same. I mean, there's something special about that.
And as much as we love like using like a Judas Priest, Breaking the Law, or these kind of things, we love these kind of lead runs that people have created. But I think what most people don't realize is that when Tony Iommi or whoever, any guitar player or slinger out there, when they were recording that album, he probably did 10, 20, 30 takes of that.
Guaranteed.
I mean, Van Halen, anybody. So to think that when they did that one that might have sounded the best that got on the album, that they had to do that the verbatim every night, I think is a fallacy. And I think a lot of a lot of fans, they get bummed. They go, somebody was telling me a story about George Lynch the other day, and it was like, oh, on that one song, you didn't play it like the album. And he's like, because I'm an organic guitar player, and yes, I could play it note for note, but man, to do that every night and have to hit that, to me, it's exhausting, and it robs some of the very feeling and the vibe that we're trying to bring to the live performance. I think so. I never ding a musician for changing it up in the live scenario, because maybe they're feeling something different tonight. That they might have written that song 30, 40 years ago, and they've been performing it every night since then. So God bless them for doing that and being able to play that song over and over and keep it fresh. But to lose some of that originality or that ability to improv. We want to have fun with our audience, and sometimes we bring our audience in. Sometimes the song is getting messed up, and we'll just stop the song and have some fun with it. So that's part of the entertainment. It's great to be a musician, but I think all of us in the band consider ourselves as much entertainers as we do musicians. And for me, I mean, there's enough doom and gloom in the world.
Just turn on the news. Yeah.
We want to entertain you, and we want you to have a form of escapism. And I've watched some, I'm sure you have as well, seen a lot of live shows with really prolific musicians, and they turn their back to the audience, and they're not engaged. They're just engaged in what they're doing. But for us, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's that relationship with the audience. And I want to engage them, and I want to look at their eyes, and I want to have that experience, as do everybody in the band. And so, and if we're feeling a little bit squirrely, and it's going to go a little faster, or it's going to go a little slower, or it's going to be a little bit this, that's that's why you can go back and see a band over and over again. I wouldn't want to go see a band over and over again that literally played verbatim the live same. It was all on a click track, and they played it the same. Well, why would I need to see that then?
Just turn on the Spotify or their YouTube link. Agreed. There's that energy in live performance, especially when it is slightly. And to be honest, like even when I've conducted a piece like Beethoven 5, I've done it since I've been 20 years old. I'm 47 now. I've done it like 7, 8, 10 times. Each time is different because I'm different as a person. You never bring the same thing. You always bring your life experience to your music, and it's like, and also it's even in classical music. There's a lot of variation. Like two conductors conducting the same piece, it can be very, very different.
And and that's why I'm a huge fan, and everybody in the band is as well, of like I said, I was a filmmaker, but music and film go a long way with me. So rock documentaries and these kind of rock musical, this type of stuff. So for us, like, the Last Waltz, I mean, the band played 1,000,000 times, but that was a magic in a bottle right there. Or to see, AC/DC in Donington. I have U2 live at Slane Castle. I know they've played a lot of great shows, but there's some witch's brew that happened right there of an Irish band performing at Slane Castle in Ireland to 80,000 of their clan mates. To me, that's something in time. And so to be able to watch that and have that experience, go, wow, that was really magical. I saw them 6 months ago in Tampa, but it can't be the same at Central Park or something. When you have those experiences, to be able to capture that, it's a real blessing. Because also a lot of bands, they fall off. They I think just like any athlete or musician, I think a lot of bands maybe lean into the need for money, and they keep perpetuating it, or they just don't know how to do anything else. But a lot of bands do seem to perform past their prime, and it's a shame to see them on the latter half of their career and go, man, I remember back in the 80s, they were great, and now they're just a shadow of themselves. And so we've always said as a band, if we ever become, we're doing a tribute of ourselves, we need to kind of set it down and maybe find another way to get our music out there. We can never give up making music, but we certainly don't want to be something where people go, you bring your kid to the show and you go, man, you really should have seen him back in the day. We still want to put on the same show regardless of our age, Well,
that's important. Now, when did you decide to make the decision to start teaching?
We noticed on tour. I mean, I'm the owner of a school in Central Florida called El Camino School of Music Repair and Technology. I'm the president owner, so I don't do a lot of hands-on teaching. I do more mentorships and things, for high school kids and things like that. But for us, knowledge is a beautiful thing, and we realized on the road that a lot of people, very talented musicians, didn't know much about their gear and how it worked. Which is funny because you think of anything else, a baseball player or something, he knows about his glove, he oils his glove, he knows how to do it. But there's a lot of really talented musicians out there, and also we found a lot of people that became guitar techs and were working at Guitar Center or Sam Ash or a retailer, and they just were not qualified. They knew somebody who knew somebody, and they seemed cool. So why don't you go on tour with me? And so we realized there was a lot of lack of maybe proper training of guitar technicians and people in the field. And so we decided to open a school that it focuses solely on empowering people through the hands-on learning of music. We actually stopped even doing formal music lessons and solely work on, for instance, this weekend we have a guitar setup class where we have everything from a 15-year-old young lady who's just starting her journey as a guitar player, all the way up to a 60-something-year-old man who has been playing for the bulk of his career, bulk of his life, and they get to learn how to professionally set up their instrument. And so I think to deepen their understanding, we also have classes where we teach you pickup winding, we teach you how to build an amp and assemble a guitar. And so it doesn't mean that everybody wants to go build custom guitars, but just to have that experience, and especially if you've played guitar for 20 years, 30 years, you're going, what new is there for me? Well, I get to go and build a guitar, and I get to go scatter wind my own pickups. What a neat experience. We even had some guys a few weeks ago came in and they made their own pedal, and they got to build their own boost pedal. And they've been playing pedals in a pedal board for decades, but to get to build their own and have that experience, it's not for everybody, but we find that it deepens their appreciation. Now, we even have a young lady. Again, she's learning to play guitar. She brought in her grandmother's old guitar that is covered in grime for over 20 years. And this weekend, she's going to get the chance to get to clean and set up and have a hand in bringing that old acoustic guitar back to life. And then she's going to use that to learn with music lessons, learn how to use that for her vehicle to learn how to play the music. So for me, that symbiotic relationship between empowering people through music, deepening their understanding, and also, as you and I were saying before the interview, not everybody, and it's a sad reality, but not everybody's going to be a rock star, and not everybody's going to get that opportunity. So to go to a younger audience and to show them a different career path where they can be part of the music industry, but maybe not be the person on stage, but be just as vital, be the person off stage. We have a friend who's one of our instructors. He's the guitar tech for A Day to Remember. Another one of our friends is the drum tech for John Mellencamp. And you never know. I mean, we even have a Reverend Peyton as an example of, they had a tour manager who eventually became the drummer of the band, and so to be surrounded by music, you never know what opportunities come up, but also you're part of a bigger thing, and you realize it takes just like to raise a child, it takes a tribe, a community to raise a child. It takes a huge community to keep a band afloat and to be that family, and to care about what they're eating and how are they going to get to the next show. It takes a huge community to do that, and we want to be a contributing factor to that, especially in a day where not everybody can be a YouTube celebrity either, and kids these days don't really want to work, and they have maybe a different ideal scenario than maybe when you and I were younger. So to give a little bit of a hands-on learning and an empowerment to a younger person who maybe doesn't know what to do with their path, maybe they're not college bound, but they love music. So we want, and some of them want to go and be part of an orchestra. Everybody's got their own path, but we try to present them with as many opportunities as possible. And knowledge is power. So for us to create
Awesome.
a school, is just another kind of angle of what we want to do on stage, is a communion with people and empowering people through music, which I think is really the underlying core of everything that we do.
Do they come and watch? Have they seen your band play? I'm sure many times.
That's not. I don't guilt anybody with to come see. Somebody who wants to be a student doesn't have to see the band. I try to keep the band out of it. it was very easy to start a thing, and we have relationships with Dean Guitars and a lot of other big companies and things. It's very easy to just use it as a vehicle to promote my band. We try to keep the band in the back burner. Obviously, when somebody looks at me, they know that I'm not an accountant, maybe. So if the conversation lends itself over that way, obviously I have no problem talking about the band, but we don't use the vehicle of El Camino. We use the vehicle of El Camino to help people and empower them. We don't use it as a way to get more kudos for the band. Although, when you find out that the president and the owner of a tech school plays the washboard, obviously there's a story that wants to be coming out of that. So I certainly share those stories when asked, but I certainly don't lead it because I want to be the president and I want to be considered this way. When the mayor was here, he actually became a fan of the band. The mayor of Orlando became a fan of the band. I actually reverse guilted him to come see the school because of it. So, it's a little bit of depending on what the scenario calls for, I guess.
Well, it's important that it's great that you can inspire that next generation because we need those people to step up. There's that need in the field, and the music industry is such a huge landscape that there's room for these kids. They just have to know that the ladder exists to get to the next step.
And I don't think that students are thinking enough about. We have several schools in the area that train like recording engineers, and a lot of people seek a path that I was at a local high school, and there was a lot of esthetician cosmetology schools there, and then you start thinking like how many of these young men and women are going to find a job? Like how many plumbers could you graduate? How many fill in the blank? Any job that's out there, if you're oversaturating the market and you're graduating 1,000 people a year, can a thousand conductors, can 1,000, a professional violinist out there, it's like to oversaturate a market is very detrimental. So even though it's very good for the academic institute to have all these people paying them tuition, we're very cognizant about not oversaturating a market. I'm the only asshole that went to college to be a film critic. I literally went to college to be a film critic, to realize that there was only 2 film critics in all of my area. And within 6 months of me graduating, both of them lost their job for syndication to the bigger things. So I was on the opposite side of the spectrum of, there wasn't even enough jobs to have more than 3, than 2 people. So I picked a very, very niche thing. But, being a recording engineer, doing these things, it's great. But my gosh, how many estheticians or recording engineers or washboard players? If there was 10,000 washboard players, we would all be on serving each other coffee at Starbucks, or all be in the picket line together. So we try to find avenues where they're not oversaturated, and I try to explain to a young student or a young high schooler when they start to think about a greater career path. Don't follow what everybody's doing. Follow something that's super lucrative, and you can carve out your own niche. Right now, to have a female guitar technician in this modern world, she could almost write her own ticket because there's not enough women in the field. So I try to talk to people and kind of present that to them. Go, there's only so many jug bands in the world too. So I don't think we don't need another 1,000 jug bands out there either. It'd be cool to inspire a few more, but how many more punk bands, how many more jug bands, how many more things? To carve out your own niche in a modern world is tough, but when you do it, I think it finds an audience, and it comes off very genuine,
Absolutely. And well, bravo. There's some beautiful thoughts there, and that you're creating these opportunities for young people to get that possibility and to open up a new avenue, because the performing ones, I want that everyone sees. They see the guitarist or the singer up there, or the drummer, and they want to be that, but they don't realize that there is the whole world beyond that. So congratulations on doing that, and wish you continued success with your teaching as well as your music. So you
even
mentioned,
even like a piano tuner. A piano tuner is like a thing of the past. It was something that everybody needed at one point, and now that everything goes to such digital, it's a completely different scenario now. That so I told somebody the other day, like a TV repairman or woman, like that's a dead art form in a modern world.
Throw them out and get another one.
Yep.
So you mentioned you have an album coming out. When are you expecting that to drop, and what can people expect with this new album?
Well, so we had an album that we released last year. First, I'll get to that. It's called Stranded, and we just released a music video for it. So maybe a month ago now, we released a music video for it. The music video is for the song called Hell to Pay, and so just in the last year or so, we did release an album called Stranded that is available. We took a little bit of a hiatus between the last two album releases, but we have a new album coming out called How to Train a Spooky Horse. It's going to be an 11 track, so a full album, and it should be out before Halloween. We kind of base everything about trying to release either before Halloween or in that time frame. We are in the final mixing stages of it. We did record it over the last year, about year and a half. So we are wrapping it up. After this, we're going to start releasing more singles. We are realizing that trying to release a full album, just sometimes the behemoth of that, even though you record, but then you have to mix so many and master so many and do so many things. So after we get this next album out, we're probably going to focus more on just releasing singles, so we can get our music out a little bit more frequently to our audience, because everybody seems to have to wait a year or more for an album, where it's a lot easier to take on one a song at a time. Even from an engineer standpoint, you get somebody trying to produce an album with 11 to 13 tracks, you get a certain sense of ear fatigue. And we never want any of our songs to be just thrown away, or B-sides or C-sides or D-sides. We want to keep it fresh. So we're going to start churning out more singles to kind of stay a little bit more up to beat and on point with our audience. But we're hoping in the next 2 to 3 months that we'll be releasing How to Train a Spooky Horse, which will be the fourth full album release from the Bloody Jug Band.
And the fourth bot's a lot of albums. So I always ask, why do bands put out albums today when this seems to be the era of the single, right? It seems the market, the Spotify, the streaming platforms, they seem to be so singles driven. Why do bands find it necessary to put albums out today in 2022?
Well, I can't speak to more successful bands. I think that we do everything that we love and are inspired by. So even though I'm not a buyer of my own music, it's hard to be a fan of your, even though I guess we are, but I love bands that focused on album art, that really put a lot of time and energy into their merchandise. I'm a huge Motorhead and Misfits fan. I love a band with a good merchandise. I love a band that took time to think about their album and even the track order of an album. And nowadays, even with CDs are dying off because nobody has a CD player in their car anymore. So vinyl is coming back huge. So the idea of a vinyl album, and thinking of our youth, but now a lot of kids are getting to rediscover that, of opening up a vinyl album and the liner notes and that kind of stuff. That
Album
stuff
art, the covers, all that, the pictures of the artist, that's all very important. We lose that on Spotify. Hey, have you, Adele had a really cool thing. She took away the autoplay function. That's like what is it?
Okay.
When
The shuffle, yeah, to make sure that
shuffle.
you're hearing it in order. Well, and that's the thing, even a set. If we're playing a set is, I sit there and I think of the set and the ebb and the flow we want to create the audience. It's no different than an album. So even though we are going to release singles and we are going to go to some of the more EPs and some of those things, just because we can churn it out a little bit faster, I still am a person that after we release enough singles, we're still going to come out with an album, because to hire an artist to make an original piece of art for your album, to work with a photographer, to get a new band photo, to as we were speaking earlier about music videos, to collaborate with a filmmaker. And I was just talking to a young lady who was in earlier that I was telling her story. As a musician, we've got to partner with different types of art. And so even though we're up there on stage, we partner with merch people that are coming up with unique merch, artists from all different walks of life we still get to collaborate with. And so just when you listen to an album, there's a lot of different collaborations that went into that, be it the photographer, the artist, and all these types of things. So it's a blessing, and I don't think we're a fan of the album, so I think we're always going to kind of stick to that and eventually find our way back to creating an album, because that, as you can see here in my office, the ceiling is lined with albums. Those are the things that inspired us. And even though we will tread into the single world a little bit, we're still fans, and we're fans of the stuff that I was a fan of when I was a kid. And opening up that thing and having that experience of that, like you said, the liner notes, all that stuff, that is it's something that might be a dying art form, but there's got to be some of us dinosaurs sitting around
I
trying
don't
to
know.
fight
The kids
keep
today
that
are
flag flying,
pretty
for
fascinating.
the next generation.
Those kids are pretty fascinating. I mean, the resurgence of vinyl. I got rid of years ago, maybe 10 years ago. 5 years ago. I got rid of all of my albums. I had thousands of them, and I moved to digital because I didn't have a place to store them anymore. And then my son comes back and starts buying albums, and I'm like, ah. but
Are you still there, Jason? Well, it looks like we're still on air, and I don't know where Jason went, so I will point out that if anybody is listening and they want to look up more about the Bloody Jug Band, I'm sure we were gonna exit.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes the internet's not so kind, and when the internet works, it's great, but sometimes we have issues. But we're back here with Cragmire Peace of the Bloody Jug Band, and he mentioned that there are so many places to go hear this wonderful and innovative band. Check them out. How can people find out more once again?
BloodyJugBand.com is our website, so certainly you can go there, but we are also on Instagram. At the BJB is usually our handle for most of that. So Facebook, all of our music is available on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, any major digital distribution site. We do have a large content base on our YouTube channel. So for people that do want to watch our music videos, you can go to the YouTube channel. We also have a lot of things. For years, we were doing spooky jokes and road games and having a lot of fun and camaraderie, and a lot of our live performances are there as well. So if you are, years ago, we were featured on a Pitbull Kesha music video for the song Timber. That's got over 2 billion views.
Whoa.
And so that is on there. So a lot of different content on our YouTube channel that you can't just find on the website. So, but again, about 13 years of music videos and content you can find on our YouTube channel. And if you type in, after this many years, if you type in the Bloody Jug Band on Google, you're going to come up with something, and hopefully it finds you well, including this interview.
Well, continued success and keep making great music, and I look forward to catching one of your live shows sometime.
Jason, thank you so much for the opportunity to come on and spread our juggly antics, to turn people on to what we're doing. Our message is always to, we just try to live each day to the fullest and try to reach as many people as we can. So hopefully we'll be doing a more touring now that things are coming back, a lot strong. And Big Daddy Germ, after he recovers from his heart operation, we do plan to tour next year with this new album, tour extensively with the new album. And so for those that want to see us live, hopefully we'll be coming to your city or your country sooner than later. And for those that want to become a guitar technician and want to find out more about that, we did speak about it a little bit on the show. The school that we talked about was called El Camino School. And so if you go to elcaminoschool.com, El Camino School of Music. If you're interested in finding a career path in the music industry that is a little bit different than playing the washboard or playing live, seek us out. We do have students that come from all over the country and all over the world that we try to turn onto this empowered career path of hands-on learning and being part of the greater music industry.
Thank you, Cragmire Peace, for joining us today, and continued success in all your music. And make sure you check out this wonderful artist and this wonderful band.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. Like and share our videos, and remember, keep music alive.